California artist Frank LaPena by Jessica Rosas. Frank LaPena was born in San Francisco, California on October 5, 1937. He is of Wintu-Namtapam descent, which are Native American tribes in Northern California. Different forms of art he expresses is painting, writing, teaching ceremonial song and dance, and he has also taught art and ethnic studies at California State University, Sacramento for 30 years. Frank LaPena did not know much about his cultural heritage growing up. When he was 5 years old, he and his sister were taken from his mother after his father died. They were sent to an Indian boarding school that did not teach them their language, culture, or history. It was not until after he graduated high school when he began becoming familiar with Indian traditions after contacting family members and friends from boarding school. LaPena has received his Bachelor's of Arts at Cal State University, Chico, his teaching credentials at San Francisco State, and Master's of Arts at Cal State University, Sacramento. Since 1960, Frank LaPena's work has been exhibited nationally and internationally in 22 one-man shows and numerous group shows. His artwork is best known for relating to Wintu and Madu culture. The themes he includes are tribal ceremonies and dance, traditional religion, and symbolism. We also see death in some of his artworks, but it is not signifying the end of life, but rather transposition to a different place. Some of his work tells a tribal story and others are personal, as I will discuss later on. He also uses line and color to transition his collaged paintings, as you can see in his artwork, The World is a Gift. I will explain further on the next slide. Both of these artworks by Frank LaPena show how well he transitions images by using line and color. The World is a Gift has both warm and cool colors, and he blends them together to lead the viewer's eyes throughout the painting. For example, a waterfall is coming down from the river in the image above it and leads to the sky of the image showing a canoe. The sky touches the deep blue water, which leads the viewer's eyes to the two men in the bottom image. Dream Songs No. 1 sticks to using cool colors. The sun's rays stretch out and leads the viewer to the right images. What I find significant about Frank LaPena is that he grew up knowing very little about his culture and is now considered an expert in his field. He has dedicated his life to spreading knowledge about his culture's history so it is not forgotten. He uses his artwork to spread this knowledge. The stories he tells of his culture is not just the culture and history of his people, but the culture and history of California as well. Here are two pieces of art by Frank LaPena. Big Head was a ceremony that took place in the 1870s after religious revival occurred. It replaced the ghost dance, which was meant to reject negative things of the Western culture, such as war, guns, and alcohol, and accept the positive things, such as wage, labor, clothes, and tools. The dance is for the regeneration of the earth and allows for the contact with the deceased. The people join hands and dance around in a circle until they fall down and are then able to connect with the spirits of their ancestors. Gatekeepers of the Invisible portray a historical event in LaPena's culture when they were being restricted of their culture from the white people. Dream Songs No. 1 portrays dream songs that were given to men and women in their sleep by the spirit of some dead relative or friend. In the morning, the dreamer sang the song and danced to it. Gift of Life is part of a collection of Frank LaPena's that reflects how one learns to appreciate life through the traditional Indian teachings passed on from generation to generation. In I Was Young When My Father Died, Sending the Spirit Home, LaPena paints a spiritual ceremony conducted in his home after his father's death. This work conveys a powerful ceremony conducted by many California Indians who are honoring traditions while living in a modern world. California art. The characteristics of California art we typically see include culture, history, landscapes, and diversity. In the past, artists would depict current events that is now the history of California, and current artists depict current histories that will be the history of California. We also see artists depicting the culture of California. This can be Native American culture or the diverse culture of California today. Landscapes is another subject matter we see in California art. California has beaches, mountains, valleys, and deserts that we often see depicted in California art. The materials we see in California art are very diverse and have multiple forms. Artists do not feel limited and use whatever will help portray their artwork the best. Robert Arneson, for example, used gunpowder on some of his work because he liked how much easier it was to backtrack on his mistakes and the brown tint color of the gunpowder. What makes California art significant is that it reflects the culture and history of California, which is unique to the state. The ideas and concepts are diverse, much like the people living in the state. The artworks in the next slides will portray why California art is significant. This is a basket made by Carrie Bethel between 1931 and 1935. She was a Native American basket weaver in Yosemite, and this basket reflects the culture of her ancestors and history of the time it was made. The Depression was beginning and tourism dropped sharply in Yosemite until after World War II. Bethel was inspired by Lucy Tells after she started a 4-year basket project, creating one of the largest fine baskets ever made. Other women also decided to start big long-term baskets in hopes that when better times came again, they would have these very impressive artworks of years to show. Contemporary artist John Roca created this landscape painting of Vernal Falls in Yosemite. Most of his artworks are landscape paintings, and many are of California, such as poppy fields and California valleys and beaches, to name a few. This is a painting of Carmel Mission by contemporary artist and Northern California painter Nanette Byers. The Carmel Mission is a piece of history in California because it is one of 21 religious outposts established by Catholic priests who wanted to expand Christianity among the Native Americans. California Artist by Robert Arneson is an artwork that portrays diversity in California art. It was made during the funk art movement and brings humor to the viewer. It makes fun of what he portrays as a stereotypical Californian. We see beer bottles, cigarette butts, and marijuana leaves. This is a piece of art that shows artists freely expressing their views. In conclusion, we learned Frank LaPena's Wintu Namtapon background and how he portrays it in his art. He is a well-known artist whose work has been exhibited nationally and internationally in one-man and group exhibits. Frank LaPena is a significant California artist because he has dedicated his life to continue sharing his culture through his art so it is not forgotten. He paints about it, writes poems, gives lectures, and participates in ceremonial songs and dance, all in honor of his ancestors and the ancestors of California. The subject matter we see in California art is the culture, history, and landscapes of California. Art in California has transformed from paintings to photography, sculptures, murals, graffiti, and so on. California art is significant because there is a history and culture behind it that is unique specifically to California, and artists use their self-expression freely to portray their art.